Yo, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Zach Lesage, and we are back here on Rare Candy to look at some Rebel Clash decks duking it out. Copperajah VMAX, which we have on the left, and we are going to see it going against Milotic V with Galar Mine and Absol and Welder on the right. I'd like to give a shout out to Michelle Babin. You can follow her on Michelle Babin TCG on Twitter for helping me film this video. So I'm the one who's playing the Copperajah VMAX deck. She's the one who's playing the Milotic V. Going over through the decks, we do have the Copperajah VMAX. It's a little bit more of a tanky deck. We thought it'd be a really cool idea to play it against Milotic V because Copperajah VMAX does have such a large retreat cost. So we can see that we got our setup basics here, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going first in this game, so let's see exactly what we have. And we got a Copperajah V, so not entirely the best start. I think getting out a Jirachi or starting with a Zacian would have been a little bit better. And you can see, I jokingly, I got a Jirachi at the top of my deck. So a quick bench of the Jirachi and attached to the Copperajah V, and that's a pass from me. So not entirely the greatest turn, but you do have to remember on your first turn, you can no longer play a supporter card. So seeing what Michelle's doing, I think she's just thinking out her turn and gonna go right into a Stellar Wish, see what she can get there. Quick Ball seems like it's going to be an awesome way to start off the game. Whatever Pokemon she necessarily needs, maybe it's a Milotic V to get out a Welder, and carefully deciding to discard the Stadium Nav there. So we're going to see what she's going to grab, just probably looking through to see what's missing in the prize cards. And she's grabbing a Volcanion, so we decided to include the Volcanion in this deck so you could search out energies and attach them to your Pokemon, similar to like a Fire Toolbox deck. Volcanion seems like it's a strong way to just power up a Pokemon, especially in Michelle's case where she's gone second here. So she already had the Milotic there, attach, Absol, and... okay, so she does have a switch there, so she will be able to power up some of her Pokemon. And then Dedenne as well, so even though that there's no Welder on this turn so far, this seems like a great setup for the deck, especially, okay, and what we can see is she's going right back in, powering up with Volcanion. I'm going to power up some Pokemon here. So without the Welder, it does allow a similar effect to Welder where you can just power up your Pokemon. She's just deciding on where to attach that energy to. And I think here she might actually just change her mind to attach to the Volcanion. We discussed it for a little bit, and it was one of those things where it seems a little bit better to attack the Volcanion, especially in a deck against a deck that's weak to Fire type. So the Copperajah V does have a Fire type weakness. So here I'm able to evolve it, and I'm just going through my hand to see if there's anything that I can do, and I just decided to go Mallow Lana. That's what it is without the glare there. Fix that a little bit later on. Got the Jirachi. See what I can grab. I think I'm just gonna go Tag Call here, and I'm just debating if I want to go back into my deck or not. It's like a tough call, but I think I'm just gonna use it to grab like a Lucario Melmetal or something like that. It's a little too late in the matchup for me to be using it right now. Okay, there's a Cynthia Caitlyn. Just going through, double checking through to make sure I could see what's in my deck. And there's a Lucario Melmetal. So with the Professor's Research that we saw in my hands, in the moment I was thinking about discarding them and going into next turn. Obviously I put a Malolana for my supporter for the turn. So we will see exactly how this plays out. Again, not really the greatest start that we have here. I'm just going to pass again. No Zacian V, no Metal Saucer, no turn 2 attack. Because this attack you could do 100 plus 100, which would knock out the Volcanion because it is a basic Pokemon. So going through here, just double checking what we could do. And Michelle seems like she's a little bit stuck on what her hand can be. With a deck like Milotic V, if you're not going for the ADP, the RCS Dialga Palkia route, it might be a little bit difficult to power up with a Welder, considering you do need Absol, Galar Mine, Water Energy, Welder. There's a lot of moving pieces. I do like how quickly this deck can kind of roll through games, and that's probably why I like it better than the ADP. It's not so slow. It's not like attach an energy, pass Attach an Energy Ultimate Ray. And you can see here that Michelle's bench in Ninetales V. It's a tech card that I really love from Rebel Clash, where if your deck does play Fire Energies, it does seem worthwhile to play. And then she's just finishing off with a knockout on the Jirachi. Seems pretty suitable, and at this point I'm like, this is kind of spooky. She doesn't really have the welders, or so either that or she's concealing them well. But I am weak to fire type, so I'm just going to discard this whole hand. There's a lot of resources there. You can see the double metal saucer and the ordinary rod are gigantic, yikes. I'm like, how am I ever going to get these attacks off? I've already used a supporter. I can't use boss's orders or boss's commands, whatever it's going to be like when it comes out in English. Just going to see what I can do here. I need to get another Pokemon just in case she knocks me out, which is very possible, even with 340 HP. If Ninetales copies my second attack, it's going to be doing 240 times 2, which is absolutely wild. I'm just going to go in with another Quick Ball there and see what I can get. Dedenne, my hand's just not what I want it to be right now. So let's see how this Dedenne change is going to work out. I'm just going to switch into the Jirachi, see if there's anything I can get off the Stellar Wish. There's a Metal Frying Pan, so at least for right now, I am safe from her fire type weakness. It's not even about the -30 in this matchup, it's that she'd be doing double the amount of damage. Now that being said, having 340 HP and having -30 is an amazing way to just like tank out some hits. And my turn's looking a little bit better more and more that we go through it. One thing that I should note is that Michelle's Milotic V deck does play Tool Scrapper, which can discard the Metal Frying Pan, which means that weakness can come back into play. So I'm always spooked out about that. And her, she's just going on with a Jirachi so that she could possibly use Stellar Wish. Maybe she's trying to fetch for that Welder so she could use the Ninetales V. So we'll see exactly how the Stellar Wish goes. And there's an Energy Spinner. So if we look at Energy Spinner, even if she grabs a Water Energy to attack with Milotic V, it does 10 plus 50 free retreat cost that the Copperajah VMAX has. So the Copperajah VMAX chilling at 4 retreat cost with Absol. Absol actually doesn't count for Copperajah VMAX. It's weird to think because VMAXs are such a new concept that you're like, yo, Absol will count. No, it totally doesn't. So it's just 4 retreat cost. So right now Michelle's hitting for 210 minus 30, which would be 180 damage. And I'm sure she's going to be doing this math with a deck like Milotic V and adding retreat costs and reducing damage and VMAXs and non-VMAXs. There's a lot of minute math to kind of like go over each turn, which can cause it to be confusing a little bit. But we did our best to make sure. So she's attaching the Water Energy, and I think she's just going over her math one more time. Maybe she'll go in with a Galar Mine here. Nope, she's actually going to go in with the Jirachi, or maybe not. Just debating on what the Jirachi, should it go down or not. Okay, there's a switch. And we're going to switch into the Jirachi, see exactly what the Stellar Wish can offer for her board state. And for me, I'm feeling pretty good right now because she's attached an energy for a turn. So if she doesn't have Welder Fire, I know that she's not going to be able to attack with the Ninetales V, which could potentially knock out the Copperajah VMAX. And I remember this moment in the game, my heart kind of sank where I'm like, there's the Tool Scrapper. So if you have been playing for a while, the card was reprinted from Dragons Exalted in our upcoming Rebel Clash set. So do keep that in mind. Go through some of your older bulk or old trainer box to see if you have any, because it is the same card. And unfortunately for Michelle, she wasn't able to get her attack off. But she does have the Tool Scrapper for next turn, because with the VMAXs being worth 3 prize cards, she doesn't actually have to take that many knockouts. As much as Milotic V should be the main strategy for her deck, especially when we're facing against a Pokemon that has a fire type weakness, Ninetales and Volcanion are a little bit more tempting. So I'm just going through here, seeing exactly what I can do. I'm like, how can I set up another Copperajah VMAX? So just going through Pokemon Communication, gonna put another card back. I think this is probably where I grab Zacian or a Rangaroo. It's a tough choice. Because I'm just like, do I want to pitch cards away? And I think I settle on the Oranguru because Oranguru will allow me to set up a little bit more. At this point, Zacian's just going to be more of an attacker. Milotic V does have 210 HP, so when I'm using Copperajah VMAX's first attack, I won't be able to get the knockout. I will need a 4th energy. But even after I discarded a couple of my Metal Saucer, I was able to get another Metal Saucer, and you can see that I'm using a Rangaroo here as well. That made it a little bit difficult. I'm just going to use Professor's Research and discard that Malawana that I just got off the Rangaroo. Not necessarily the best card I want to get off Rangaroo, but I need to progress with my board state here because I'm set on a short leash due to Michelle's, the way she set up her board. I'm just going to take the knockout, putting me at 2 prize cards. So in my mind, I'm looking at this board and I'm like, I can knock out Ninetales, Milotic, or Dedenne. I just need to knock out 2 of them. And I just have to be careful to kind of avoid knockouts here. So we can see Michelle, she's looking at the same kind of board state. She's already taken 1 prize card on a Jirachi, so she can knock out a Copperajah VMAX and one of my other 2 prize card Pokemon, whether it's a Copperajah V or a Dedenne GX, or if I bench a Zacian V. These are all cards that she could just bring up with a boss's orders or boss's command and get those knockouts. Okay, so I'm waiting for this big turn because we do know she has a Tool Scrapper in her hands. I think I was just getting up here to fix the glare issue that we were seeing. Just something with my window. There's a Welder, so we're going to see exactly how this plays out for her because I'm a little spooked out. So we're going to see Welder onto the Ninetales. If she finds a way out of the active position, she will be able to take a knockout because she does have that Tool Scrapper. I specifically didn't attach any other tool cards because I was worried about Tool Scrapper nabbing another tool at this point in the game. And I think she's just thinking it out to make sure like that everything's going well, that Tool Scrapper works the way it is, because again, these are new cards, or if you haven't played with Tool Scrapper before in the past, it has come out a few years ago. Okay, so there's a Pokemon communication. And we'll see exactly what Michelle's going to grab here. I think it's a Dedenne GX, because she still might be missing some portions of the combo needed. And again, these Welder decks do feel very juggling based, where you're trying to grab fire energies, Welders, she's trying to grab water energies. And we'll see exactly how it all goes here. So there's a Galar Mine. There's a Palpad. We're going to see the Welder go back into the deck. A good tip about when you're playing a deck with Welder, most Welder decks will play Eldegoss V. So if you want to put the Eldegoss V, you want to save a Welder or a supporter in your discard pile for Eldegoss V to grab back. Palpad might not always be the best play at all times. Not saying that it's a bad play here, but okay. So jumping back in, we see Michelle getting a water energy attached, so she could potentially use Milotic V's second attack, and she's searching for that switching card. Milotic V's second attack isn't as powerful as Copperajah V's, or as Milotic V's first attack, but we're going to see the Ninetales come out here, and the Ninetales is just going to use its tail shapeshifting to copy my second attack to hit me for 240 damage times 2, 480, and I'm just like, just want to double check because when numbers get that high, you're like, is something going wrong here? But in all seriousness, she is able to take the knockout there. So I'm going to go with Copperajah V going up front because the Ninetales V does have 200 damage. I do have a free prize card, and if I don't knock out this Ninetales V, she will be able to knock me out next turn with a Milotic V. So scrolling through, what can we do here? Got an energy, so we have the third energy, so I evolved into the Copperajah VMAX. So I will be getting a knockout to put it down to 2 prize cards. There's the Metal Frying Pan, because if we're doing the math correctly on Milotic V, right now I'd have 4, 5, 6 retreat costs, which is 310, and I was a little bit worried about the Absol doing 360, but I did get that wrong in my head. That being said, I also need to worry about Michelle only having 2 prize cards left. And Deandre GX will have 1, 2... It has 1 retreat cost, another one with Absol, that's 2, 3, 4 with Galar Mine. So I'm putting a skateboard. It still hits the 160, but I might as well play it before I discard things away with Professor's Research. And here I'm like, I don't need Gyrosean V. I don't need nobody. I'm just gonna search out something else. Just a Jirachi, because at this point there's nothing that she's not going to knock out. It's also a good way for me to thin out of my deck. So just doing a quick shuffle there, making sure that she can cut the deck, and I'm just gonna put that Jirachi away because I'd rather see something else. So I'm just gonna go for the knockout. And here I'm like, if she can get the boss commands or boss order, she wins this game with the Milotic V on the Deandre. And I'm just like, if you have it, you have it. And it's one of those moments where we're gonna find out really quickly if she can get it. And I'm just checking through the discard pile. It's one of those long pauses where you're like, okay, she might not have it. So, looking through, if she goes in with Welder, I know that she's not able to get it. It might have been a little bit better to go for the Jirachi, but after talking it through with her, she did not have a switch or a scoop up net available in her hand, so she needed both, which meant that it was impossible that turn. Sometimes you gotta accept it. And we're just gonna see exactly how it goes here. So there's the boss command. It sucks that the Jirachi can't retreat out of this because there's the Galar Mine. She's already played a supporter. And it's also asleep. So a lot of things going on. In one of my early builds of the Milotic V deck, I did have a skateboard in the deck, not thinking about Galar Mine. So sometimes we don't always have it figured out. And she's just passing, trying to go for the win next turn. And I'm just like, great catcher. Win the game on the Deandre GX because I can attach a 4th energy. It doesn't matter, even though Jirachi has resistance. But that's the knockout, and that's game 1 to the Copperajah VMAX deck. So we can see that the deck just has a lot of HP. It's hard to tackle those knockouts. Even though Michelle did a great job of getting at that first big attack, that big knockout with the Ninetales V, it is difficult to get to those. So you can see that we're getting set up for our second game here. Michelle's opted to allow the Copperajah VMAX player to go first, which is myself, and we're going to see exactly how it goes. From the way that I can look at my body language, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. I didn't get a basic Pokemon. And I think she's deciding between it doesn't seem like a good hand if you read her body language either. So we'll see if it's able to become a little bit more interesting if the first game was a fluke, because again, some of this is our very early testing for the Rebel Clash format in general. So just kind of playing around with these new cards and getting our feet wet in this pool of a new upcoming amazing set. So making sure I shuffle it away so I can definitely get a basic. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. And Michelle's, you can see she's getting ready to draw an extra card for that. If you're looking for any of these cards when the set comes out, we do have our PTC Geo Store sponsor, so check them out at ptcgeostore.com. Feel free to use code RareCandy and save a little bit off your code card order. Looking in here, I'm like, word, what can I start with? I'm starting first, and I'm like, okay, awesome, we got a basic. Let's go. Good luck. So we started with the Copperajah V again, and she started with an Eldegoss, similar to other starts, like a Tapu Lele, or a Deandre GX, or anything like that, like a Shaman EX even. Eldegoss is something you want to play only when it's going down from your hand, so you can see that the inclusion in the deck is hurting her setup right now. Not the worst thing, because it can use its Soar attack. We do need to remember that even though it would do 50 damage, most of the Pokemon that are Metal type nowadays have a Grass resistance, so that could really hurt some of our Pokemon. And I'm just grabbing a Zacian. Zacian will allow me to use Intrepid Sword, draw some cards, get set up a little bit. So got an energy. Again, that's really important for a deck like this. And I'm just going to use Intrepid Sword. And there are no Pokemon there, or no energies there for me to do anything with. So that does end my turn, and we're going to see exactly how Michelle's turn kind of explodes here. So she has to discard a Fire Crystal. Right now we only have one copy in the deck because the deck does have Ordinary Rod, and it does have a few copies of Energy Spinner. So energies shouldn't be too big of an issue. She does have the Milotic. Again, if we look at my Pokemon, a lot of these metal Pokemon do have a hefty retreat cost. And there's another Quick Ball, so looks like she'll be able to get pretty much whatever she wants. And there's a Jirachi, so as much as the Eldegoss start is there, it's really not that bad. It'd be the same thing if I started with like a Dedenne GX or something like that. Really not that big of a deal. And let's go with, there's Jirachi, Milotic, and there's a Welder. So she will be able to use Welder to retreat this turn into that Jirachi, and there's a Galar Mine. I think we actually talked about it to see if she wants to play down the Galar Mine because it does work for both players. It is something to get used to. So if you are playing a deck like this, I would 100% recommend that you are watching what you want to discard, like watching if you want to play it or not. So she's actually decided to go for a Volcanion, which I think is a really smart play, because even though she already used her Welder to get an energy onto the Eldegoss, she can get off that Volcanion's attacks, and she did go second, like most Welder decks want to. And risking it for the biscuit, I guess. We're going to see exactly how it goes with that Dede change. So we do see the Fire Energy, and just deciding on some last second things here. Is it worthwhile? There's an Energy Spinner, just to thin out the deck. She could use Energy Spinner for more cards if she wanted to, but she does want to keep the energies in the deck for the Volcanion as well, so we're keeping that in mind. And again, similar to the last situation, deciding that it's collectively better to attach to the Volcanion, so the Volcanion can do more damage. So let's say if I don't get an evolution hit on the Copperajah, the Volcanion could actually get a knockout on the Copperajah V by doing 110 damage times 2, which is 220. Similar again to the Zacian V, it can get a knockout there, so even with a boss's orders, commands, however it's going to get translated in English, it can get those big juicy knockouts. So there's a Copperajah V. And I'm just getting prepared for it. My hand's just like, you might get knocked out, Zach. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to use a Ranguru because I'm just going to try to search out my deck a little bit more. And we can see that I'm going back into my deck. So my hand's not that bad. I was a little worried about getting knocked out by the Volcanion. But here I'm like, you want to know what? I do have an opportunity to rip those energies off of the Volcanion. I do have an opportunity to reduce the damage by 30 throughout the entire game. I know that Michelle's deck, the Milotic V, Welder, Galar Mine and Absol, kind of monstrosity of a deck, it does allow for a lot of damage modification. So a couple bench spots of Absol can really be huge for a deck like that. I just wanted to make sure that her numbers could be a little bit off, and I think it might ultimately be the way to play this deck, because the minus 30 from the Copperajah from the Metal Frying Pan on a Copperajah VMAX is that kind of like a 370 kind of fake HP. Then we have the minus 30 again, so it's technically like the elephant Pokemon's chilling at like 400 HP, but 400 HP plus. Because every single time they attack you, it's just that number keeps on growing, and with cards like Mallow Lana, it seems like it's a great way. On the other side, the Milotic V deck is going to be big chillin' with these fire type Pokemon and the Milotic Absol Galar Mine's engine. So it's a really interesting matchup overall. So we can see that I got the Lucario Melmetal GX, and I'm just going through what my options are. I'm just going to flip the GX attack over, so that will be minus 30 for the whole game, and Michelle will discard her energies. Here we're like, do I need to discard my energies too? Just double checking again, because there are similar cards of similar effects. And I'm like, how is she gonna play out her turn? Because it's looking a little spooky here. So she got the Scoop Up Net. Scoop Up Net allows you to bring up one of your Pokemon, as long as it's not a V Pokemon or a GX Pokemon. So it does allow this deck to get around the requirements for Galar Mine without needing a skateboard. The deck does still play Switch to get around it, because a lot of these welder decks do want to use a Jirachi engine. So if you do decide to build the Milotic V as a welder deck, Jirachi, like, this build is probably close to perfect. It would be really interesting to see the Milotic V working with the Altered Creation GX with ADP. Again, I don't like it that much as a purist deck. I do think ADP Zacian is a very cool concept, and that's probably how I'd like to run it. But the Milotic V is an interesting aspect, even if it would be its own deck or own tech aspect. So we can see that Michelle's searching for a Fire Energy from the Energy Spinner. I'm going to see what her plan is for this right now. Because things aren't looking bad. We got the Stadium Nav. There's one heads. Looks like it's one heads overall. And it looks like it's just going to be searching out a Galar Mine to just, like, get it out of the deck. Maybe she's planning on drawing some cards or using a Deandre GX or even, like, a Welder. See what happens after this shuffle. It's entertaining for me as well, looking at it over after the fact as well. Okay, so we see that there's the Volcanion back again. Got the energy. And you can see that she has another energy in her hand. There's a Fire Energy, perfect. There's a switch. And so the 220 damage does turn to 190 damage here on the Lucario and Melmetal GX. This is where things start to get spooky, because I have 6 prize cards. That's a single prize card attacker. And the game kind of like takes a halt there. I'm like, oh, 190 for 2 on a single prize card Pokemon is kind of amazing. I can see why she would not attack with the Milotic V there. I can see why there's other options in this deck. And you can see by the way that my rate of play is just like, I'm kind of a little taken back. And even in my head, I'm like, that Malolana is really cool. But if we do some quick math, if 190 plus the 70 remaining is 260, that is a knockout on a 3 prize card Pokemon, regardless of the Malolana. At that point, I could have almost just played the Malolana just to switch. However, I thought it would be a good idea to have the Malolana, just in case I can get another one off in the future to keep that Lucario Melmetal protected. And I didn't necessarily need anything too much that turn. I just really need to get out of the active position to not just like give a freebie prize card. And I'm just going to cut after that, and we'll see exactly what I want to do. Putting a card on top of the deck so that I can use Deandre GX. And again, it seems like I always get that Malolana off of that Oranguru for whatever reason. I know the deck does play a few of them, but oddly, it's a card that seems to be attracted to that Oranguru play that I like to do. So going over here, I'm like, yo, really not much going on. I think I'm just going to try to use Zacian here. Because there's no energy, there's not too much. And here I'm like, oh, you want to know what? There's a Copperajah VMAX. I'm not really going to do too much with it. There's a Copperajah. I just want to improve my chances a little bit for the Zacian to hit some metal energy so I can attack with it. It does allow me to knock out things like Milotic. And we can see I got quite fortunate there to get 2 energies on the Zacian. So it sucks I missed the energy off of the Deandre to attach to the Copperajah. But it's another one of those things where I'm like, okay, cool. Zacian's a pretty good attacker. I am terribly worried that Michelle will be able to use a Great Catcher or a Boss Command to knock out that Lucario Melmetal this turn. Again, doing 190 after the minus 30 damage So 220 minus 30 to do 190 is an insane amount of damage for 2 energies on a single prize card attacker. With no drawback at all either. So there's the boss commands. You can see that she's identified that play as well as I have. And I'm like, yikes. There's her 3 prize cards, and I'm like, at this moment in the game, I'm like, when are we going to game 3? I thought about it instantly scooping because it looked terrible at the moment. But I'm like, okay, cool. I gotta find a way to get a knockout somehow. I do need to get around Galar Mine, and I do have a couple copies of Switch in my hand as well. So there's Jirachi. So no matter what, I'll be able to use Switch to get out of that situation. We'll see exactly what I can grab. There's a Professor's Research. And I'm like, how am I supposed to draw 6 prize cards? The way that I look at her board, with the Volcanion being a single prize card attacker, I do need to focus on that. It does mean that I have to take some prize cards here or there. But I do have the minus 30, and I do have metal frying pans, so it is something to watch. Something that's not ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, cool, there's an escape board. Reasonably, I probably could have attached it to other Pokemon, like a Rangaroo or Dedenne, because the Galar Mine means it's not going to happen at all. But in case I were to use like Double Metal Saucer or something, I actually could retreat with the Jirachi. I don't know, it's not really the best reason. Here, I'm just shuffling back in a Copperajah VMAX and a couple Metal Energies, because I think I'm about to use Professor's Research, and I do have another Copperajah VMAX in my hand. Whether or not it's something that needs to come out in this matchup is still to be decided. But we'll see exactly how this ends up playing out. So there's a Copperajah V, so that's putting my 5th Pokemon on the bench. I'm switching into the Zacian, and just organizing my bench a little bit. And we're going to go Professor's Research, so you can see the cards. Like I said, I had to discard some tough discards over the past couple games off these Professor Research. And just thinking about what I want to do with his hands. I'm like, how am I going to win this game? It's one of those situations where I'm like, okay, we got an escape board. Let's make sure that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Milotic V to knock out the Zacian V. So now the Zacian V has 1 retreat cost, it has 3 retreat costs with the Galar Mine altogether. So an Absol, even with an Absol, it'd be 210 minus 30, which would be 180, which would be a knockout. And with the minus 30, I know that the Volcanion is not necessarily getting a knockout either. Which is why I think I want to go with I think it's about to be a Great Catcher here. Yeah, Great Catcher on to the only available target, so I could try to draw 2 prize cards. In my mind, I'm like, I need to win this game in 3 turns, because it's looking really spooky. Like, Michelle could actually just knock out one of my Pokemon in play, and I have to knock out 3 of hers in order to draw the remaining prize cards to win the game. And that's the part that's the scariest here for these matchups. Again, it's probably not playing out as well as the Milotic V deck probably would want to, but that's just because of all of the damage modifiers going on. The up modifiers, the down modifiers, and the fact that my fire deck has a glaring my metal deck has a glaring fire type weakness, and she's like, cool, we're gonna take advantage of that. So even though that your deck might have a strategy, make sure that you know all of your available outs, because as you can see, that Volcanion's already drawn her 3 prize cards so far in this game. And I think she's just like, yo, how am I gonna complete this game? While it might look a little bit closer for her, I do have Mallow and Lana healing cards that might prevent her from winning the game on her own accord. So we're gonna see a Welder. She's just powering up an Eldegoss here. Doesn't really make too much sense to power up anything else, because everything else is already fully powered up, so at least it could use its Soar attack. I think we're gonna see a switch into another Jirachi. It's crazy that even with an escape board, the 3 energies on my Zacian V would have to be discarded because of the Galar Mine being in play. So the 2 retreat cost minus 1 for escape board is at 1 plus 2 for Galar Mine. And there's an Absol, so adding a little bit more of a retreat cost and energy onto the Eldegoss. And the cool thing about Eldegoss here is that Eldegoss won't be doing any damage. Cool for the metal deck, that is. Not so cool for Michelle's deck. The Eldegoss would be doing 50 damage, minus 30 for Lucario Melmetal, minus 30 for resistance. So in that case, it's better for her to send up a single prize card Volcanion to hit me for 190 damage. So a little bit short of a knockout there. And this is kind of the point where it just becomes a really tanky deck. So there's an energy for the Copperajah. And I'm just like deciding, I think, before I go with anything and just counting all my available cards left in the deck. So I'm going to go switch there. To get out of that position. So even if she does knock out the Zacian V, it's not necessarily the greatest target because that would leave her at one prize card remaining. And I'm just like, do I want to evolve into that Copperajah VMAX? Because that one might not be able to have a metal frying pan attached to it. The fact that I used Professor's Research, I really would have loved to use Boss's Command that turn to knock out the Eldegoss. Just to draw 2 prize cards would have been really cool. But here we're looking at it that she might not be able to get a knockout. It's definitely putting her in a tough spot overall. And there's the Tool Scrapper immediately after the turn that I played the Metal Frying Pan. So as metal decks might become more and more popular, we already saw with Toward Ratcliffe at Malmo Regionals playing Metal Frying Pan in the Zacian ADP deck. A lot of metal decks are going to be running that card. For myself, I've helped popularize fire types a little bit with my second place finish in the Oceania International Championships this past February. So I think fire decks might just run a few Tool Scrappers nowadays just to get around some of these big metal Pokemon, whether it's a Zacian deck or if it's a Copperajah VMAX deck. So she is able to use Pal Pad to get back Welder and Boss Command, and I think she's just going to leave the Welder in there just so that she has a bigger chance of getting the Boss Command in general. And I think she's just thinking through exactly what her best options are. Looking at the big amounts of HP, the large amounts of HP that my board has, and the way that the prize card trade is, it's looking in general. And I think she's just like going through all of her available options still, where it's just like, it's definitely that crunch turn where it's like, she's deciding, do I want to take off the Metal Frying Pan and the Escape Board? I think the Escape Board's probably better on the Zacian V because it's not going to really matter on the Jirachi too much. And we'll see exactly how this all plays out. There's a switch into the Milotic V. So I think she's forced in between getting some of her attacks off. And from what you can look through the game, she's gone through quite a few energies. So it might not even be possible to power up another Milotic V at this point. So right now it has 4, 5, 6 retreat costs because again, Absol only applies to basic Pokemon. 6 is 300 damage. So 50 times 6 is 300 damage plus the base 10, 310, 310, minus 30 is 280 damage. You look at all the dice that I have to put down on this Pokemon. It's crazy that this Pokemon is still living. And even if there was another modifier in play, just one more, if Absol even counted, it would have been 330, 10 damage, too short, and that's with the Metal Frying Pan being off. So huge attack on her behalf, So there's the Mallow and Lana. And I'm just going to switch into... I think I have a switch in my hands. Or maybe I'm just debating on, do I want to send up Jirachi? Or do I want to just send up the Zacian and maybe not even waste that switch in case she tries to stall me out by bringing up something else? And I'm like, okay, you can knock out my Zacian. That's only 2 prize cards. As long as you don't knock out my Copperajah VMAX, which I'm now putting a Metal Frying Pan to kind of further fortify that Pokemon. I just want to make sure that I'm not getting knocked out here. And there's my 4th energy so that I can knock out any Pokemon. So even if she does get a Milotic VMAX, or a Milotic V out, I can get the knockout on that. And she's just going through her available options, and it's tough because, like I said, even that Eldegoss is doing -30, and then another -30 because of resistance. So it's not really helping out too much there at all. Even if it just gets shuffled away, I can retreat and get the knockout on anything. I have switch, and I can attack. Because I would have been able to retreat with the Galar Mine in play. I'd be 1 energy too short. So thank you so much everyone for watching the video. If you really want to support the channel, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. If you really want to kind of help out the channel a little bit more, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/rarecandytcg. Similarly enough, you can go to rarecandytcg.com, pick up some cool merch, and again, all those proceeds go right back into the channel. As for me, I'm Zach Lesage. You can follow me on Twitter at ZLesagePokemon. That being said, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great one. Bye.